was a California August in '82 when my mother gave birth to the Spam Tech crew. 13 years later had me looking at Linux. Programming made me stronger like Papa the Spinach. Now, people know that a DG carry weapons, but if that weapon is a nest you step in, we finish Contra with only one life. Finish Metal Gear 2 using only a knife, right? People might think that we're frontin', then they see all the noobs online that I'm putting. My rhymes flow just like my code, even though my source is owned by SCO. What about my Indian? I keep it low. See me on Gunbound, call me pro. I'm a certified legend, but I'm still your bro. This is a PSA, boy, the more you know. No.
I'm a legend everywhere that I go. Every distro, every Craigslist hoe pumping they fist, yo. Can't get enough of Whitey Crackers jams, and they can't get enough of Whitey Crackers spam. I'm a legend everywhere that I go. Every distro, every Craigslist hoe pumping they fist, yo. Can't get enough of Whitey Crackers jams, and they can't get enough of Whitey Crackers spam.
I said my heart's wide open, goatsy, and my windows min like Ho Chi. I'm just another nerd, but I rap about it. Shit talk on the net, then I laugh about it. I've been caught slipping like the Star Wars kid when I'm on eBay sniping a bid. Catch me on a webcam like Numa Numa. See me at the club and I'm rocking Puma. Another net legend if you see me yodel. Spit a little something that's anecdotal. Tell me about the time the E-Bombs world stole your chop like I stole your girl. Catch me on Gen May, not something awful. Low tax would ban me, raffle. I'm a certified legend, but I'm still your bro. This is a PSA, boy, the more you know.
I'm a legend everywhere that I go. Every distro, every Craigslist hoe pumping they fist, yo. Can't get enough of Whitey Crackers jams, and they can't get enough of Whitey Crackers spam. I'm a legend everywhere that I go. Every distro, every Craigslist hoe pumping they fist, yo. Can't get enough of Whitey Crackers jams, and they can't get enough of Whitey Crackers spams. I'm a legend everywhere that I go. Every distro, every Craigslist hoe pumping they fist, yo. Can't get enough of Whitey Crackers jams, and they can't get enough of Whitey Crackers spam. I'm a legend everywhere that I go. Every distro, every Craigslist hoe pumping they fist, yo. Can't get enough of Whitey Crackers jams, and they can't get enough of Whitey Crackers spams. Yeah.
What's up, meatbags? It's the often imitated, never duplicated Tony TGD. And as you can see by the title of this stream, we're going to be talking with indie comic creator Jon Dexter. Currently, he has a Kickstarter for Dime Store Detective #3, and there's a catch-up bundle. We're going to talk a little bit about his comic. We're going to talk a little bit about the other projects he's working on, and any other goodness that you guys might have. John is having some technical difficulties. He was just here, but now he's not. So we'll wait for him to join us. But thank you to Bianca. Huge thank you. She's the one who set this up. She had him on her channel. She gave a Bianca softball interview. But today we're going to have all the tough questions. We're going to dig deep and really find out what's going on with Mr. Jon Dexter's comic. Yeah. So we're off to a great start. Anyway, while we wait for John to reconnect, this is Dime Store Detective. Like I said, issue 3 is currently on Kickstarter. So far, they've raised $1,272 out of a $2,000 goal. 48 backers, 20 more days. So if you are interested in this comic, why not head on over, donate some money, get yourself a book, maybe pick up the catch-up bundle where you can get all 3 comics. Let me see. All 3 would be, look at that, $17. $17 gets you issues 1, 2, and 3 PDF format. So that's not bad. 3 comics for $17. I did have a chance to read the first issue. I thought it was pretty good. I had some questions about it. Yeah. Usually, I'm not usually flustered like this, but well, you know, John, like I said, John was in here, and then he popped out, and now this is taking me aback. I usually a lot better at this. Let me check my Twitter. Maybe he's having some kind of crisis. I know John has dogs. Maybe the dogs needed to go out. Play the trailer. Good job, Extra Hero. I will play the trailer. Good thinking. That's why you're the best sidekick ever. There he is. Hey, John.
I tried something that was say it was going slow, so I moved to a different place.
That's fine. I just let people know we're going to have a discussion. It's not going to be a softball interview like you had with Bianca. We're going to get tough.
Uh-oh.
We're just right now. We're about to play the trailer from the Kickstarter page. So check that out. So those of you who are just tuning in or maybe catching this later, would you like to explain, John, what the black and white, what is the difference between the black and white pages versus the color pages?
Yeah, so I was too cheap to pay for color on half the comic. Just kidding. So when we're in the present in time, it's in color. When the detective, our main character here on the left, Donald McIntyre, is investigating a serial killer who has left his latest victim over the burial grounds the detective's father and uncle had buried multiple bodies 40 years ago. When we flash back to 1981, it's in black and white when the detective is 8 years old. It's kind of like, Stephen King's It. I compare this a lot to Stephen King's It and It's True Detective. So we jump back and forth 40 years to when the detective is 8 years old and his family gets embroiled in this moonshine war with the Dixie Mafia. This gang kind of pushes the family, who are 4 generations of making moonshine in North Georgia, towards Atlanta. In Athens, Georgia is where the story takes place, over in the Appalachian Mountains. The family's not going to just, run away. They fight. And in the story, not to give too much away, but the uncle and the father inadvertently released this evil presence, we don't know if it's an alien, a demon, we don't know what it is, a ghost out of the Appalachian. It's been trapped in the Appalachian Mountain cave for hundreds of years. And once they release it, it possesses the uncle here on the right here. So it's a great story if you like noir, if you like supernatural story, if you like true crime or crime mysteries, and you'll enjoy it. So the trailer kind of gives us a little preview. It's great. It's done by Stone Tower Studios. They're the ones that produced the comic.
And like I said, I did read the first issue. I was I don't want to say pleasantly surprised. That's because that makes it sound like I didn't have any faith in you as a writer.
Well, you don't know me from Adam, so
yeah. But no, it was decent. I've read way worse comics. I've been talking about one of the bad comics I've read for the last couple of weeks, and we talked about it yesterday. But this one was good. I had 3. I don't want to say issues, but 3 things that I wanted to discuss. And
sure.
Hopefully, you let me show the pages.
Absolutely, yeah. Show as much as you want.
All right. We'll finish the trailer, then we'll get into it. Just real quick, did you grow up in and around Georgia?
Absolutely not. I worked for about 7 years in the winter. I worked construction, pouring concrete. So for 6 years, every winter, I would go down for 2 months and pour concrete on the Air Force bases north of Atlanta and south of Atlanta. Warner Robins, if anybody's in Georgia, shout out to Warner Robins, and to Marietta, Georgia, where there's an Air Force base as well. So that's most of my knowledge. It just everything kind of fit together geographically. You had the dry counties that wouldn't let down there, and you had the Appalachian Mountains, which is very infamous for the disappearances and the strange things that go on in the Appalachian Mountains that are unexplained. A lot of mystery there. And also, once you get into this story, you'll figure out more why it's a perfect setting.
Right. I was just asking because I myself have never left my area, and I'm not familiar with the Georgia area, but I was just wondering because people who might be more familiar might be like, oh, this is wrong, and why did he put this in there? People get.
Yeah, I don't believe that. I don't. Like I said, I went down there for it. It's. I love Georgia. I love it. A lot of people call it just the piss stop to Florida, but it's a great it's a great state. And Marietta has got some of the best food. I love Marietta, Georgia.
Pink Bunny got a quick question. He says, "Does the pupil and the color image indicate possession?"
Correct. Yes, and you will find that out as the story goes along.
Look at that. He picked that up.
Yes, that was a good catch.
And that's the kind of thing that I like about books like this, where you don't have to. People always complain about, right? They say, "Oh, we don't want to hold your hand," but there's a difference between not holding someone's hand and not giving any information, right?
Exactly, and that's why it's in black and white and color, because I didn't want to have to explain too much of when I go back and forth, because really, once you start confusing the readers, then you lost them. So I wanted to keep it very simple. People are not in your mind. So and I have at times confused people with my comic books because I don't make it really clear, because to the writers, it is of course clear. So I hate exposition. I absolutely hate having a lot of narration. I would never make it in the 80s as a comic book writer because I don't like a lot of exposition. I like the images to really guide the story along. So,
well, they really should. This is a visual medium, right?
Yeah.
So the exposition dump, the long, drawn out panels of nothing but talking. That's not really what a comic book should be. A comic book should be visual storytelling, and I think you do it pretty well here.
Thank you.
With the black and white, like right at the beginning, you show us, boom, this is the present, this is 1981, the black and white, and then instantly, whenever it's black and white, you just know. All right, you don't have to tell us again because we just know visually that this is 1981.
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's continue the trailer. These guys look like the Eyes Wide Shut cult.
Yeah, definitely. There's a similarity there, but it's a totally different story of what goes on. But yeah, there's definitely similarities. They are. I don't want to give too much away. This is for issue 3, but they are all dressing the same, like the evil being. They all are dressing what they believe he kind of looks like. Not to give anything away, because this part of the comic book here happens towards the very end of the issue. We live in a really awesome, one of the best cliffhangers I believe I've ever written to end this issue. So, but yeah, it's definitely got the Eyes Wide Shut vibe to it.
Pink Bunny says, I think just in these couple of minutes, Dexter just got himself a fan right here.
Well, thank you. People have really enjoyed the comic. Unfortunately, Kickstarter's been terrible this month. I'm sure, I don't know if you've heard, but from a lot of creators, I just talked to one a minute ago. It's been a rough month for Kickstarter. I don't know economy or what, but we're a little over halfway funded, so we'll be fine. I mean, but it has been rough, but it's just me getting the word out. So it's a great comic. People, when they do read the very small fan base that I have so far, have really enjoyed it and have come back for more. So yeah, if I haven't heard anybody yet say that they don't enjoy the comic.
Fantastic. And if they don't enjoy the comic, that's okay.
Yeah,
not everything is for everyone.
Oh, absolutely.
We don't got to go online and attack people when they don't like things. Like some crates.
I'm not done.
All right, and that is the trailer.
Yeah, this trailer for issue 3. I'm sorry, issue 2 trailer is on there as well. It's just as fantastic as a trailer. So if people want to get kind of caught up, just check out the other one. They can see issue 2 trailer as well.
So let's get a little backstory on you, John. What brought you into doing comic books? Deciding to make the leap from reader to writer.
Oh, I've been writing ever since I was a little kid. It's all I ever wanted to do was to be a writer. I started out more in the screenplays. I mean, that's really was where my heart was for most of growing up. And then I watched 1993 X-Men, the Fox show came out, and I was obsessed with comic books after that. I was a huge Wolverine fan and went out and used my paper route money to buy every X-Men, anything that featured Wolverine and Sabretooth that I could. So I was a huge X-Men fan in my young teen years. And as I got older, a little more sophisticated, read a lot of different indies, and then Onslaught, infamous storyline. And I was done with comics for many years. And then I think it was 2001 with the Ultimate Universe that got me back into comics. I just loved Brian Bendis and Mark Millar's Ultimates run, and after that, it was a lot of Ed Brubaker, and of course the master Frank Miller. So there's that's been my comic reading. And then about 10 years ago, I wrote my first comic book called Steelhawk. Paid for that myself. It crashed and burned pretty bad. I think I sold like 3 issues. It was my first foray. And then I decided I had got some traction with my screenwriting career and had become a semifinalist in the Academy Awards. They put on a screenplay contest, and a lot of screenplays that have done really well there have been made into movies. I had a screenplay called The Weeping Trees that was a 2-time semifinalist there. So I was the top 180 out of 7,300 or 400 scripts. So I thought I was going to get something going, but like 99.9% of screenplays, it fell through. And then I come up with the Alpha Dogs comic about 7 years ago, and just over time saved up the money to get that going. And that I launched that at Kickstarter. Oh goodness, it's probably been close to 3 years now. And this is my 7th Kickstarter now. They've all been successful. Haven't made any money, but they've all been successful. So I'm trying to build up a portfolio, I guess you could say, to hopefully make this a career eventually.
Extra Hero says, Mr. Dexter, I appreciate that you used one of my favorite musicians for the trailer soundtrack.
Yeah, he's actually I used his soundtrack for trailer 2 as well. The mood of his music fits perfectly with this, very hard-boiled, dark tone, supernatural story. It's got a lot to do with family.
Who was the musician? Because I didn't recognize the music.
Yeah, his name is, I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Hoosier. I'm saying it wrong. Hoozier. Yeah, he's fantastic. He wrote. He's the singer of "Take Me to Church."
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's got a definite, distinct style, and it fits really well with what I'm trying to convey in the trailer. So, if you want to show trailer 2, which is just as good, a lot of people actually say it's better than trailer 3 for issue 3. That's on there too, and that's a pretty cool trailer. And it kind of helps us realize the relationship, and that's really the heart of Dexter Detective is the relationship between father and son. The detective just idolizes his father, even though the city has cast him down as this murderer who is, bootlegger, goes to war with the Dixie Mafia, this gang, and who's murdered all these people. But the son doesn't believe that his dad's a bad guy and wants to kind of show, I don't want to give too much away the story, but kind of clear his father's name, as it were. So it's an 8-issue series if I'm able to get this funded and continue on, but all 8 issues are written, all plotted out. I really wrote them in a fury because I was just so excited about the story. I'd written actually Dexter Detective many, many years ago, but I didn't like it. There was something missing, an element. And then once I had listened to this podcast about this guy who was a hitman for the Dixie Mafia. Dixie Mafia are the guy, if you ever watch Walking Tall with The Rock, well, that's very, very loosely based on a true story of this cop named Buford Pussert, who went to war with the Dixie Mafia. And the Dixie Mafia is basically the Dirty South version of the New York Mafia. They were hitmen, drug runners, and his father in this true life was a hitman for them, killed many, many people. But the son always kept that flame of, carried the torch for the family and would never hear a cross word about his dad, even though he was this horrible man. So that kind of gave me the idea of what I wanted to do. Once you really have a theme, and that's really what a story is, what you're telling is you have to have that theme that connects the thread of your story. Because if you don't have something like that, then it really, I guess you don't have something that kind of brings it all together. If I'm saying it correctly.
You got to have that thread that goes throughout the whole thing and makes a nice, clean connection from, A to B to C.
Yeah. And it gives the story the heart, because really what stories are, you hope is that personal connection between the reader or watcher with what you're telling, because there can be some great movies out there, great stories out there. But if you don't have that personal connection, even bad stories, they could be not even a very good story. But if you make that personal connection to your main character, then you've got them.
Yeah. So you said you got 8 issues on planned and, written out. Do you have any plans to take the characters beyond those 8 issues into another story arc? Or that's it?
Perhaps Mackinder. I have something for him, but that would be way in the future. I have 2 universes. I have 2 real comic book series, Alpha Dogs and Dexter Detectives, and I'll just say they're in a shared universe. So
I was just going to ask, are we going to have a crossover?
Yeah, I'd like to do something like that, and that would be way in the future.
Jay Lucian here, he's read number 1. He says number 1 is fantastic.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, issue 2 is even better, and issue 3 is even better than that. Every single issue kind of builds off the last one. So issue 1 was a lot of setup, and when you're setting up this new universe for readers, you got to give a lot of explanation. But I hope I did a good job of keeping it entertaining at the same time, explaining what the dynamics between these people are.
It was, in my opinion, like I said, well paced, well done. I finished reading it, and it felt like it flew by. Like, I didn't have to stop and think. It wasn't a lot of like, oh, well, let me go back. I didn't understand some. No, it was just real easy, easy reading, real flow. There were, like I said, there was 3 little kind of issues that I had with it, and
Oh yeah, go ahead. Fire away. I love to answer them.
all right, so the first, there's 4 technically, but the first one's not really, well, because the first one's not really your fault. It's more because it was in a PDF version, right?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
the first was it like the first couple pages? It's a double page, right? So we got this.
Oh yeah, that's on me because I should have given you the print issue. I gave you the one when I first got back, and I must have mistakenly not given you the proof version. The proof version would have given you both the pages together. That's actually on me.
Like I said, I just figured because it is the PDF version, one page after the other.
Yeah, but if I would have given you the proof, I must have accidentally gave you that one instead of if I had given you the proof, then they would have been together. So that's actually my fault. I apologize.
No problem. And then, like I said, right here where we got the detective comes up, he asks who found her. The police officer says jogger, dog ripped away from his leash, made a beeline for the body. The female detective here says, funny thing is, then he says, what? You notice anything weird? So it's like she was going to say something, and I don't know, it's kind of clunky in my opinion.
Okay, so you think it should have been on the next panel?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can see where you're coming with that. Sometimes, yeah, I can see what you're saying. That what I think I might have been trying to do is to help to guide the reader along to the next panel. It's been over a year now, so I can't recall exactly. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely something I probably should have considered. So,
I don't want to show. Yeah, I don't want to show too much, but when the main detective from the police force shows up, he mentions how they're in the same spot as the uncle and the dad had buried bodies.
Yeah,
and there's no real indication. Like, there's nothing that stands out where I go, "Oh yes, I can see how you could," because it's just in the forest. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, how did he know this is the exact spot? Other than he knows and he's telling the reader, it feels more like of something like he should have been like, hey, isn't this the area where like your uncle and dad buried bodies? Like, not like this is the exact spot.
Oh,
right?
yeah. I mean, I guess I just assumed people would realize that, yeah, it's not, may not be the exact, but it's, yeah, I mean, it's,
I'm
they
autistic,
buried,
so
well, the thing is that they buried 8 bodies there. So it's it would be, and I guess if I'm explaining it, then I guess that's on me. So they buried like 8 bodies there. So it would be a very famous spot, a spot that people would go to. It'd be like the Spalding Ranch that, or that Charlie Manson had, or where the Sharon Tate murders were. You got to understand this decently sized town. There's 8 bodies that murdered in this and as the story goes along, you find out this was a very infamous riot, this infamous war of 1981. There, if you recall, they're in the car and he says, you don't understand, it tore the city apart. I can't exactly word when they're in the car. He said how this war in 1981 between his family, tore the city apart. So it would be a very famous spot. Any spot that's got 8 buried bodies, even if it was 40 years ago, would be a very well-known spot. So that's why it would be known to everybody.
I get that. I understand it, but like usually like famous spots like that, there would be either some sort of indication like, oh, this is where a bunch of people put ribbons because like, oh, we're going to go visit the burial site. Something like where you could visually go, oh, I understand how they, you could recognize and I can recognize, yes, this is somewhere that a lot of people have gone, maybe a lot of footprints. Like I said, I'm super autistic about things like that. So I'm like, But how do they
Yes,
know?
I mean, the first person to ever actually have a criticism about that. But hey, it's you don't realize things, but yeah, okay, I understand what you're saying.
And then the last thing was just an art sort of issue.
Yeah,
So on what is this? Page 19. So they walk into the bar, right?
yeah,
And these people seem really tiny.
okay,
Because you got this is the chair, and like the legs of the chair are real small. And they're
okay,
almost the same size as the child.
okay,
So,
yeah, yeah. I can see what you're saying.
So
Hmm.
that just like popped out. I'm like, well, they're not further back, right? Because this guy's closer to the camera, so he's obviously bigger. He's closer to the camera, so he's bigger. But they're almost at the same spot as where they're walking in, and these people are incredibly tiny.
Okay.
I mean, if it's just two midgets at the bar, that's fine. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
but other than that, like I said, everything else flowed pretty well. I do like the sort of Dukes of Hazzard vibe I was getting in the 1981 section.
Yeah. Well, it's very much. It would be one way to describe it that I have is like a very, very dark issue of Dukes of Hazzard, because there's these two cousins that are bootleggers. Of course, theirs was in Hazard County in Kentucky, and this is in North Georgia. But yeah, and they're like brothers, just like kind of the Duke boys were, and they drive up their souped-up car to outrun the law. In my story, it's the Plymouth Barracuda with the Hemi motor, very famous, beautiful, the burnt orange with the black trim on the side. I wanted the car to kind of be a character in itself, much like the General Lee or the Supernatural car or Knight Rider. The car kind of is sort of a character in the story as well. The car is passed down from father to son. So in the story, Detective Mackinder drives that car in the series.
I was a little disappointed because at one point in 1981, they're running from the cops. He says, "Oh no, the cops behind us." And they're it's a little chase, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna do a Dukes of Hazzard. They're gonna like fucking hit a ramp, and I was like, oh, there's no ramp. They just went past the county line. Like, oh.
Yeah, I didn't want to get too cliche.
I was looking for it. I was like, oh.
Yeah, that would have been cool. But it's definitely a different kind of story.
Extra Hero says, could you tell us a little about the female detective? Are there any romances in the story?
Yeah, so the female detective, Detective Kelly, whose first name is Blanche, that she will beat the crap out of if you call her first name, which you find out in issue 2. So they were girlfriend and boyfriend, and then 6 years ago, Mackinder broke it off with her because his family, he has so much baggage in his life, Detective Mackinder, our main character, that he was trying to protect her. And so he kind of broke it off. There's other things that happened that we'll find out and other reasons why he did. But what he tells her in issue 2 is a little bit is that, he was trying to protect her. She was a young detective. He is quite a bit older than her. I think in the story, she's about 8 years older than her. And so there was a lot of political issues going on. Mackinder in the story has no friends, and in the description, he's a cop that's short on time and friends, and he rubs a lot of the department the wrong way. He is a guy that will go up against the top brass, and so it would have been detrimental to her career kind of to stay with him, and they were going to do everything that they want to do what they can to kind of get him off the force. Unfortunately for them, he's the best cop that there is, and he is obsessed with kind of doing it the right way. And part of him is to kind of prove that his family are not the horrible, murdering bootleggers that people perceive them to be. They're actually honest people that do the right thing. And so, yeah, in the story, Detective Kelly also is someone whose star is rising. She's recently become a detective. Well, about 6 years ago was when she made detective, and she is now getting connected to the mayor, who is taking a shine to her, as we see. in issue 1 and 2. The mayor makes her lead detective. Basically, the mayor is trying to get her on her good side because the mayor is nefarious, along with a lot of other high power people in the city. It's a very
Just
corrupt
like
city.
in real life.
Yes. And so as the story goes along, Detective Kelly kind of has to make that choice to do what's right or to do what's best for her. So we'll see what happens as the comic goes along.
I agree with Pink Bunny. He says this man knows his characters very well.
Yeah, it's I live in them quite a bit until they're on paper. Basically, I take notes and they just live in my head for a long time until my brain's about to explode. And so I write them down. I wrote an issue every 2 days. I was ready to issue, and I had the comic all written, the 8 issues written in less than a month. So
I talked about this when I was reviewing a couple other comics where you could just tell where the writer didn't actually know his characters, right? Like you feel like you've taken this character and you know, like if I said, hey, what's the character's favorite, drink or what they do when they grew up, you would know because you've lived these characters. That you created them, you created backstories for them, you created things that are probably never going to be on the page, but you know it in order to, how would they react to this? Well, because this thing that you don't know about in their life, this is why they react a certain way. And that's how you can tell a good writer from a bad writer.
Yeah.
None of these characters sound like you. Like we've been talking for 36 minutes, and I can tell you that none of the characters feel like you. They feel like their own separate.
Yeah, thank you. I take pride in that. It's I love living in that world for a little while and really fleshing out these characters and making them round and making them real people that people can relate to, but are still their own people.
And
one of the things. Go ahead.
I was gonna say one of the things that I also like about the comic, and again, I don't want to show too much because it is worth the read. But you do a lot of the art does a lot of where it's breaking through the panels. One panel is crossing over into the other, so it makes the panels more dynamic instead of just like boring.
Yeah. Well, here what I wanted to do that was page 1. You were seeing was 1981, and it's the same spot in 1981 it is in the present. And what I was trying to say, hopefully I did, is the more things change, the more they stay the same. So you've got, and also to help give us what happened in 1981 with the last panel, you have them body there. They're shoveling in the spot that those cops are looking up at the dead body. So here, right there, which unfortunately I didn't give you the the one that has them all together. That's on my fault. But anyway. Yeah, and you've got the mayor, and so
this is the liquor store in Walmart, or not Walmart, legally distinct
Walmart.
from Walmart.
Yeah, I didn't want to get sued or anything. So
you got drag racing, and then people
mud bogging. Yeah. Sure.
Like I said,
I would have given you the print version.
Everything feels real, feels alive. It doesn't feel like the town feels like a real town. It doesn't feel like it's conforming to your story. Like it feels like it could exist in reality.
Yeah, I believe so. It's there's, like I said, it's a lot of it's a big city, not too huge, but Athens is a pretty good, which it could be any town. I just use that because of the geography. The University of Georgia plays into the story in issue 3. And yeah, it definitely could exist. It's definitely got the old Southern, good old boy, the powerful protecting each other that goes along in this story, that goes along in real life as well. So it's a lot of those dynamics that go on. And Detective McIntyre is the thorn in their side because he doesn't care about promotions. He doesn't care about money. All he cares about is bringing justice to victims. And he becomes the ire of very much of the people in power.
So like I said, you got an 8-issue arc plan for this.
But we got to get funded first for issue 3. So
that's what I was going to ask.
Go out and buy issue 3. Like I said, it's a terrific story. You're going to love it. And the PDF for all 3 issues in issue 2 and 3 are 28 pages. So you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. If you buy all three in just the PDF form, it's $17. And if you buy all three in the actual physical comic book, which is for me, my favorite is to have the actual book, it's only $35, which is a pretty good price, I think, considering, it costs a lot for us indie people, Kickstarter people, to print up our comic, to pay. We're not Marvel. We have, oodles of money at our dispense. So I've got to pay the letterer, the colorist, and none of that stuff is cheap.
No. Well, you get the Ultimate Bundle, which gives you Dime Store Detective #1, the variant cover, #2 with all three covers, #3 with all three covers. You get your name on a thank you page, and then you get Alpha Dogs 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, Alpha Dogs is another, though a different genre, is just as fun of a read. Alpha Dogs is inspired by my own dog, who's a Pitty, who actually passed this year. The dog has the ability to heal from any wound. He's smart enough to understand human speech, and he has a heightened strength. Him and his owner and this older, kind of grumpier pit bull are on the run from mercenaries that are trying to abduct the dogs to manipulate their power. We had lived in a town that outlawed pit bulls, so we had the choice to move or get rid of the dog. So, of course, we moved, and that gave me the inspiration to write about this dog that's feared by the public because of his breeding size, but he actually has a huge heart. So people really love Alpha Dogs. Now that comic has gotten bigger every issue, and it's definitely grown. I'm actually doing a signing for Alpha Dogs 4 at my local comic book shop. So if you're by any chance in Lansing, Michigan on Wednesday, I'll be there signing copies and hopefully helping to promote Dime Store Detective for the next 20 days it's got left on Kickstarter.
I do like the covers. They are very reminiscent of the old.
Yes. Yep. So cover A, that one, I wanted that. I don't know how familiar you are with the old Dime Store novels. I mean, that's where, of course, the name came from, is the old Dime Store novels from the 30s. It was, they had that melodramatic scene, in the coloring palette, as you can see, is just like that one. He did a fantastic job. Our colorist, and if you scroll down on there, it'll tell you all the names of the people. But Stone Tower Studios are the ones that produce that cover, and they produce everything about the comic. The only one that they didn't do is this cover here, which is done by Amar.
Pernaki.
Yeah, sure. I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name very well. He's a fantastic artist, as you can see. I wanted to, which gives a little bit away, but that's the uncle and dad. And the uncle, as you can see, is possessed by the evil entity, and they're on the hood of the Barracuda. It's a great cover.
Yeah, it looks nice, and it does. It tells a story in and of itself just by looking at the cover. Right?
Absolutely. All the covers are great. And then the last one is kind of the movie poster cover of here. And this is them finding this hidden cave, and it's got the warning. And of course, they don't listen. They don't heed the warning, and they go into the antechamber part of the cave and release this evil being that's been locked away for hundreds of years.
And I am glad they did not heed the warning, or else we wouldn't have a story, right?
Exactly. Because what two cousins in their 20s are going to heed any warnings anyway?
So do you have any ambitions for this to be a movie or a TV show? Or
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I have a screenwriting background, so my stories are very cinematic, as you can probably tell. So yeah, I would love to. Everybody, I've had so many people say, well, you're going to take it to Netflix. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, sure. It's not like you're just going to walk up on Netflix's door and knock on it,
Yeah.
They don't come looking for you. So yeah, I mean, if I could, I would love to. That's the end game for both of my series. Alpha Dogs would make a great series or movie, whatever, as well. But it's just it's getting them to notice me.
So you're in the indie comic space. Is there any competition? Do you feel like other indie comic creators are hogging the spotlight, or how do you feel about the whole indie comic scene? I should say.
Honestly, I've got my own thing. I don't really pay much attention to it, to be honest. We're building, as you might be able to see, we're building a house right now. I've got a full-time job, and I'm doing Kickstarters, and I'm writing comic books, so I have very little time to know what's going on. I know can be drama. Eric July is about the hottest thing right now, good and bad, I guess. I heard a lot about him on social media the last few days. I don't know what he did, but I know he makes a comic series, and I think he's like a Comicsgate guy, I guess. So that tells you how much I know about any of this stuff. I don't really care, honestly. I'm just writing comic books. And the only ones I know, but to answer your question, as far as the indie little guys like myself, there is definitely some cutthroatness. I'm not big enough. Nobody, and I think, even cares about what I do. So,
well, I guess that's a good and a bad thing, right? I just asked because there are, I've had dealings with people in Comicsgate, whether on the show or talk to them about their stuff. EVS has popped in.
Yeah.
And I always hear there's always this idea that there's nothing out there. There's no other, it's Marvel, DC, and then whatever book that they're promoting, right? That's the only thing that exists. And I'm always like, well, if you guys really care about indies, why are you not talking about these smaller creators that don't have connections? These guys who, they're just trying to make books, basically. Like, just a guy who wants to make a comic book, has an idea. Why are they not talking about it? If they really, quote unquote, care about the indies, right? It's all about, doing good books, because there are a lot of good books like yours that are just out there that no one knows about, because no one's going to talk about, because you're not out here, making trouble or accusing people of things. So it's just like, well, no one pays attention to you because you're not actually being an asshole on the internet. So your book, should be funded. You're not even asking for that much. You're asking for what, 2,000?
Yeah. Which, obviously that doesn't even come close to covering the cost, but it's like the least amount I can lose. But so, my hope is that I'm kind of betting on myself, and that my work is quality enough that eventually, more people will take notice. I'm going to be at my first really big Comic-Con.
He says, does Dexter feel he's more rooted currently in the movie, TV world, or in the comic book world?
God, I suppose currently the comic book world, just because I haven't found anything really that good on TV lately, to be quite honest. I've been reading more comics than I've been watching movies, which is still not that much, because I don't have a lot of time to do much of anything besides work. But my writing is definitely more movie dumb than it is comic. And I say that as in, I don't have a lot of narration, I have almost no voiceover. What I did do with Dexter Detective, because I felt like I want to do something that nobody else is doing. And I don't think there's a lot of prologues in comic books. And I wanted to write a prologue for Dexter Detective. And it was a letter from the father to the son written in the year 2000, which, not to give too much away, but in the year 2000 is when Detective McIntyre becomes a cop. So I had and in prologues, I wanted to kind of show off to my writing, because for me, a prologue should be give you a nice, oh my goodness, such a great writer. I can't think of the word I'm trying to say.
It happens.
Foreshadowing. Give you foreshadowing and get to know the characters, and kind of give us a little bit of what the theme of the story is. In writing, you're supposed to kind of have your theme for a movie in the first, I think it is 10 minutes. So I wanted to kind of give the theme of the story in the prologue, and give some foreshadowing, and create kind of a tone for the story. So hopefully I did that. I think it's pretty cool. So
Pink Bunny says, I mean, as a creator, not as an audience member.
As a creator, yeah, I'm more rooted. Probably, I don't know. It's probably, oh boy, I don't know. It's probably 50-50, I guess. I know that's kind of a cop-out answer, but I enjoy both genres just as much as the other. And as a creator, I guess I probably more movies just because I write. I've always grown up writing screenplays, and so my comics are very much written in the structure of a screenplay for the most part, or for the most part, yeah.
I'll tell you what, I love this cover right here.
Yeah, Wolverine's my all-time favorite comic book, as I told you, character. So I wanted to pay homage to that. So my first variant cover, real variant cover that I ever did. Well, I'm sorry, that's not true. One of my first variant cover for a comic book is that one.
It's fantastic.
It's great. And then of course I had to do the Spider-Man one too, which fits into Alpha Dog's 4 story, is the Spider-Man homage too. So, and then I'm sorry.
You said you started off with a comic that failed, Steelhawk.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans to bring it back?
No. What? I think most writers will tell you once you're done with something, you're done, and you move on. Whenever someone says what's your best story, it's always the next one. So I feel like every one of my comics are better than the last one. So I have no ambition to go back.
Did you at least consider including it as sort of a bonus for some of the?
No, I'd be too embarrassed. I don't even own it. So I was so disgusted with it, I threw them all away, the ones that I had left, and so I don't even own a copy of it. So if I ever blow up, then those will be worth quite a few bucks, probably.
Pink Bunny says screenplays and comic book pages are twins. Can't separate them at birth.
Yeah, that's very true. Because all stories should be structured. Even the simplest stories have a structure. You have the beginning, the introduction of characters, the hook, and the dilemma, and then midpoint, just like Dime-Store Detective. So the first 4 issues of Dime-Store Detective kind of set up, and then the last 4 issues are kind of the payoffs. Now, that's not usual structure that I write. It just, without giving too much away, at the end of the midpoint, the whole tone changes.
So in the unlikely event that one of your comics, one of the Dime Store Detectives, doesn't get kickstarted, what do you funded? That's the word. Now I'm the one who can't think of words. Funded. Would you just end the series and just, that would be it? No one would get a conclusion, or would you still try to put out one more sort of wrap it up type thing?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't be able to afford to do any more unless I got a publisher. And so hopefully, worst case scenario, issue 3 is over halfway done, so I would finish it even if I didn't get funded, which I don't see me not getting funded. We're already over halfway with 20 days left. We're 10 days in. But I would definitely I would try to seek a publisher. I'm going to try to seek a publisher anyway. I haven't tried it yet, but that's definitely, it's on the horizon. I'm going to be going to the Motor City Comic Con November 12th, and I'll probably bring a bunch of my comics. It's a huge Comic Con. It's one of the biggest in America, so I'll probably be taking and seeing if there's any publishers and hand them my comics, because email just doesn't work. Nobody, they're inundated with emails. You really have to just find them at a Comic Con, and this will be the first Comic Con that I've been to that I hopefully a lot of the bigger name publishers will be at. That maybe I can hand them the comics.
Pink Bunny has a question, which I think I know the answer to already. But he says, if you could write one dream comic for Marvel or DC 5 years from now, what would you pick? And I'm assuming it's going to be Wolverine.
Yeah, Wolverine or the X-Men. Yeah, probably, definitely. It'd be either Wolverine or the X-Men. Probably the X-Men, maybe. I don't know. It's so tough. I don't really read superhero stories anymore because they've just been done to death. I'm sure there's some good stuff out there, but really after Mark Millar and Brian Bendis left, after the Ultimate Universe, I guess, was destroyed, as anybody that knows, they know what I'm talking about. back in the early 2000s, I was kind of gassed out and tired of the superhero genre. Honestly, I don't even watch the superhero movies after Avengers. You know, I watch one here and there, but I kind of got burned out. So
He says, "You got any good Wolverine pitches ready?"
no, because I'm like I said, no, I don't. I mean, I could come up with something pretty quickly, but boy, there's so many. I'd have to think of something that was. I would honestly rather do somebody not well known, because there's so many great Wolverine stories out there that, you know, to stand out would be tough. I'd rather do like a Shatterstar. I'd rather do somebody that isn't really well known and give them a, you know, bring them back from the grave, so to speak, or give them a quintessential story. So I would actually probably rather, I mean, I would definitely want to write Wolverine, but I mean, if I was smart, I'd write somebody that is not very popular and make them popular.
And that way you could make it your own. I wish you would get Shatterstar so you could fix his whole convoluted clone thing.
I couldn't even tell you anything. I just remember him from the 90s in the comics, and he was so freaking cool that if anything beyond, like I said, anything beyond after Onslaught, I couldn't tell you one thing about it.
They took the character that was really cool, and then they said he was a clone of Longshot, and then
okay, I do know he was. I thought he was Longshot's son or something.
Yeah, but he was also a clone, and like I said, it was really
course.
Convoluted.
I know. I remember. I think it was like in the early. Everybody was a clone. They were cloning everything. It was so stupid.
Pink Bunny says you got to fix Shatterstar swords.
Yeah, definitely. Those pirate swords are weird. Swashbuckler swords.
So, if there was any DC or Marvel that wanted to fold into your character, they said, you don't want to bring Dime Store Detective over. Would you be down for that, or would you say, no, I want this to be on its own thing?
It just depends if I got to keep the rights. I would have to insist on keeping the rights. I've been to too many comic book conventions where people that have created some of the greatest comic book characters, and they don't get nothing. Marvel obviously is synonymous for that. I'll never forget going to one of my first Comic-Con, and the creator of the original Green Lantern, the poor guy was sitting there and trying to get autographs, and he had no line. Nobody really knew who he was. He had to be in his 80s. I mean, he just looked rough. He looked like he had a pot to piss in or wanted to throw out. And I just remember that is so wrong that he has made them so many millions of dollars off his creation. He doesn't get any money from it. I know DC's better about it now, so I've heard, but yeah, and you got Len Wein that really, although he didn't create Wolverine, he is the one that helped make him who he is today, and all these other people that created these comic book characters that don't have to do GoFundMe's to pay their medical bills. Yeah, it would all need to be dependent. I would want definitely a little bit of control over my story.
Yeah, according to Ethan Van Sciver, he says DC is a lot better with that. He gets royalties,
I've heard
residuals.
That, yeah.
But Marvel does sound like they're a little tight with the pocketbooks. Maybe it's a Disney thing now. So
no, I think Marvel's always been like that. Because I remember Stan Lee sued them back. Oh, this is almost 20 years now. Stan Lee sued them because they made so much money off the Marvel Spider-Man when it came out, and he only made. I think they gave like an annual check of $1 million or something, and he
only $1 million.
Yeah, well, considering this is when Spider-Man was at height with Tobey Maguire, and
yeah, I know it still just sounds so funny though. Like they're only giving him $1 million every year. And I'm like,
yeah.
Well, I wish someone was only giving me $1 million every year.
Well, after tax, it was probably $500,000.
That's
got to eat, right?
Yeah, he's got to cut back. No more caviar.
Exactly.
But we will take a look. You said this is the second trailer, right?
Yeah. Go ahead and play that one. It's a fantastic trailer. Like I said, if people don't want to back comics after watch these two trailers, I'm really out of ideas.
We're not going to get copyright claimed on the music, are we?
I hope not. I'm not big enough. They don't care.
The music companies really don't care how big they'll.
Yeah.
Clash of the Titans, Evil Dead being played on the theater.
Yep. It's 1981 movies of that year. Plus, it is a play on of our story. So on the left-hand side, this is issue 2's cover that you can get with the Kickstarter if you buy all 3 or just buy it on its own. And the left is 1981 with Detective Mackinder's father on the Barracuda, and then on the right is present day with Mackinder. So,
and it has a very supernatural-esque feel to the
yes,
story.
very much so. I know people are like, "Oh, do you rip it off Supernatural?" Like, no, actually, this is 2 different time periods. They're not 2 guys going on the run. So,
I love Supernatural. It was one of my favorite shows. Hated the ending. Terrible ending.
I haven't watched the ending yet.
Myself in comics says, "Oh no, naked woman."
Yeah.
Too much nudity for her sensibilities.
No.
I mean, she's only like 18, so it's okay. So, any other interesting things coming up in your world, John? Anything besides?
Oh, not really. I'm going to lose you in just a second here. I'm going to have to get on my other phone because my battery's already died on my computer. I had to switch out because it wasn't going to get signal. So
that's fine. Anyone got any questions? Now is the time to get your questions for John. I know we only had a couple people. All right, we got 2 Johns. There we go.
can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we could hear you fine.
Okay, I got my phone now. So
Pink Bunny wants to know who's your favorite detective from the movies, and why is it?
oh, my favorite detective. That's a good one. It would have to be Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart from Maltese Falcon is probably my favorite, but I'm also a huge fan of Russell Crowe in LA Confidential. There's definitely an LA Confidential vibe to this story. If you're a fan of LA Confidential, then you probably would like this one too, with the corruption at the top and the hard-boiled feel to the story is very much similar to LA Confidential.
I can definitely see that. I would say, though, Eddie Valiant is probably the most underrated detective. People are sleeping on Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It's a great movie. Pink Bunny also says, did you like Fallen Angels, the miniseries from the 80s?
I've never heard of it. I'll have to check it out. Yeah, they don't make miniseries anymore. It's a shame. There's some of the greatest TV was the miniseries from the 80s. But yeah, I've never heard of it.
DCAM wants to know, Dick Tracy or Sherlock Holmes? Who's the better detective?
Honestly, I mean, I'm not really a fan of either, but I guess I'd have to pick Sherlock Holmes.
I think
The
Dick
only thing I've
Tracy.
ever, yeah,
I was gonna say
yeah,
Dick Tracy's
I
probably
couldn't.
better.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I don't. I think I've ever watched anything with Dick Tracy, but I did watch The Hounds of Baskerville. Now this is back. This is the Hammer films. If anybody knows about those, back in the
Yeah,
'60s with Basil Rathbone.
I'm old as shit, so yeah.
Yeah, but you can't if you're any kind of mild detective film buff, then you know what I'm talking about.
I just say that Dick Tracy's a better detective because Sherlock Holmes cheats. He has the H Street irregulars. He has all the kids going around,
No.
getting him information, feeding him stuff. Whereas Dick Tracy actually figures it out on his own. It's like Batman. Everyone says Batman's a great detective, but he has a computer that does all the work. He just feeds stuff into a computer, and the computer spits out the answer. Myself in comics says I realize you don't have like 50 variant covers. How come?
I know. I don't know how these guys pay for their comic books unless they're not paying these artists very much. I've seen a lot of these comics where they have just so many variant covers. Like, well, how do you even fund your comic? I guess maybe they do it for free or something. I don't know, but the comics. I mean, a good artist, even a decent one, is going to charge bare minimum 150. Most American artists will charge every bit of $300. So I'm not. Yeah, I don't know.
Is there any artist, comic book artist, or just regular artist that you really would like to work with on a comic book?
Well, I mean, obviously, your dream is going to be your, Jim Lee's, but that's never going to. I don't think he even does any artwork anymore. But yeah, I mean, if I could pick anybody, it'd be Jim Lee. But as far as with Dinosaur Detective, Jacob Phillips, of course, he's like the noir king. He does all of the, the Chris Condon, the Ed Brubaker, all those noir comics. He does all the artwork for him. So that'd be cool, at least to do a cover.
You should try reaching out to him. You never know.
I've tried to talk to him on Twitter because you can't get a hold of him on, you can't get. So I've reached out to him on Twitter and he just ignores me whenever I say, "Hey, you want to check out my comic?" Chris Condon has actually read both. People that aren't familiar, Chris Condon, he does that Texas Blood, the Enfield Gang Massacre, which is fantastic. So I reached out to him, gave him Dinosaur Detective because it's a similar genre to the Texas Blood, and he really enjoyed the comics. He actually wrote a little review that I shared on Twitter earlier this week, basically saying it was a fantastic read. So
that's high praise.
It was nice.
And last question before we get off, Pink Bunny wants to know who is the best comic book writer of all time.
But it's really kind of who you're into.
I mean, besides you, obviously, right?
Yeah. You got your Frank Millers, of course. You got your boy. It's tough because currently, I mean, I'm really big into Brian K. Vaughan and like I said, Ed Brubaker. They're kind of my guys right now. But Chris Claremont. There's never been, in my opinion, a better run of longevity of quality than Chris Claremont's X-Men run of the 80s and a little bit of the 90s, but mostly, I mean, throughout the 80s. I mean, X-Men was, I don't know if anybody would remember, maybe too young, but X-Men was bigger than the Avengers. It was the biggest comic book out there throughout the 80s. It was awesome. But I don't know. It's tough to say, but Chris Claremont is up there. Frank Miller and Mark Mark Millar, he's man, I like writers that can do a lot of different things, a lot of different genres. So it would be tough. It'd be really between Brian K. Vaughan probably and Mark Millar for me.
Myself, I'm partial to John Byrne, but I'm also an idiot. So.
Yeah, I haven't read a lot of John Byrne stuff, so I can't really speak on that. He did a
Pink Bunny
great
says
Wolverine run.
Millar is solid. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, John, for joining us. I will put the link to the Kickstarter in the description of the video for anyone who wants to take a hop over there.
I appreciate
I would. I'm probably I'm leaning heavily towards getting the $17 PDF 3 issue bundle myself. Hopefully, you guys keep funding his comics because I do want to know what happens at the end, right?
Well, you got to pledge to it. You won't be disappointed because if you liked issue 1, you're really gonna like issue 2 and 3. I mean, they're an extra. They're more pages for one thing, and they get more, obviously deeper into the story. The issue 1 was kind of the introduction to our brand new world. So, everybody that's ever read issue 2, obviously no one's read issue 3 yet, except for my wife, who does like anything I write. Everybody that's read issue 2 says it's a lot better than issue 1. So,
well, fantastic. Like I said, that's I think one of the worst problems for the indie comic scene is there's so much uncertainty, right? Like, I want to get invested in something, but I know that if he doesn't get funded on issue 4, that's it. Like, it's over, and I don't want that.
Possibly, but I am very confident that the comic is good enough that I will get a publisher when I start trying. I really feel confident that if it doesn't fund, if the future ones don't fund, that I think I can get a publisher because, for one thing, it's only 8 issues, and most publishers, smaller publishers, they don't like ongoing series. They like miniseries like mine. So I would be flabbergasted if every decent mid-sized publisher or an Image or down to Arcadia Press says, no, we don't think this is good enough to make money. So
when all 8 issues are done, are you going to collect it in an omnibus type
oh,
thing?
absolutely, yeah. I was thinking about maybe doing for 4 issues, because 4 is half, maybe doing something like that. I don't know. I mean, it'd be kind of stupid because it's 8 issues. I probably would just wait and do all 8.
All right. Well, I look forward to reading more of it. Like I said, I enjoyed issue 1, and I'm going to pick up. Myself and Comics wants a trade paperback. Always wanting things, Bianca.
Well, yeah, but if you don't buy these issues, there might not be a trade paperback.
Yeah.
And the great thing about Kickstarter is if you don't have the money today, no funds come out until after the campaign ends in 20 days. So you can back it now and not worry about paying for it until the Kickstarter is ended, and if it, of course, is funded.
Yeah, so there you go. Fantastic. If you guys are interested, I definitely suggest you go over to it. Like I said, I will put the description, or I put the page in the description. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to get the catch-up bundle, and hopefully we keep funding this comic because it's good. And indie creators like this who have solid ideas, who deserve more attention, should be getting it. And the only way to do that is talking about it, having people come on your streams, having people review the books. So go out there, guys. Do these things.
Yeah,
Especially
you won't be
Bianca.
disappointed. I really don't think. Like I said, I have yet to hear somebody not enjoy it. It's a very original story. You're not going to find anything like it on the bookshelves. So if you're tired of superhero stories or want something different, you should definitely check it out. If you're a fan of hard-boiled stories, if you're a fan of True Detective, LA Confidential, or Supernatural series, or Stephen King's It, then it's definitely right up your alley.
Yeah. And we'll definitely be owning the libs or conservatives if you buy this book. Someone will be getting owned if you buy this book. I promise.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Thank you for joining us, John. Thank you guys for watching. For the people watching on the replay, as always, love, peace, booty grease. We're out this bitch.